Chapter 1. The Waif and the Warrior. The tent flap rustled, and Marcel stepped inside without knocking. "Good morning, Kaede," he said, brushing dust from his sleeve. "I wasn't sure your little guild would survive to see another fair." Kaede straightened from the small desk where he'd been arranging the day's ledger. He met Marcel's handshake stiffly. "We've done well enough." Marcel, "Yeah." He looked around. "You are barely hanging on here. Look around, Kaede. You'll break before they ever hire you." "We will find work," Kaede stated, jaw tight. Marcel stepped closer, voice dropping. "And you will march the children to their death. Give it up." Kaede's eyes burned as they flicked to the battered courtyard. "They've more grit than any pressed soldier. My son—" He stopped, chest tightening. Damn it, he'd said too much. Marcel smirked knowingly. Kaede straightened, his voice firm now. "We'll see who starves first. Get out." Marcel gave a low laugh, saying, "He's not your son, fool. He's a curse. Always has been," as he slipped out. The tent flap closed, leaving Kaede alone with the quiet flapping of canvas and the faint sounds of the courtyard beyond. Kaede reached for a tent pole and squeezed his rage into it. Joom pulled off his helmet and squinted at the setting sun. Still enough light to find food, and maybe an ale. The contest had lasted longer than he liked, but in the end he won. He usually did. At the yearly fair he had one goal: remind the Empire why they still feared his name. No man could match him face to face in heavy plate, duel or real fight. These opponents were lucky today was the friendly kind. Still, his body ached more than it had last year, and it soured his mood. The Empire didn't crave blood, just the illusion of it. Joom hated staged combat. He'd strangled men on real battlefields under a brutal sun, their lives decided over mills and land. But here, it was theatre, and theatre brought clients. Clients fed his guild, Syphis. Now all he wanted was ale, food, maybe a woman. He winced. His armor smelled like socks on a corpse. These public displays weren't real, but by the sacred whore, they were draining, and noisy with applause. Heya Wenan, second in command of the Syphis Guild, waited nearby, arms crossed, looking insufferably clean. And thin. Heya thought Joom's head had the shape and texture of a potato. To him, Joom was as unrefined as he was deadly. Every interaction felt like it could end with a blade. One misplaced word, and he'd be mulch. Luckily, Heya's mask was his strongest asset. "Good fight out there, Joom. By the gods, better than last year." Heya clapped him on the back. "I'm hungry," Joom growled, in no mood for pleasantries. "This way, my dirt-eating friend," Heya said, gesturing in his foppish way. The insult was calculated. Joom could smell fear. "The dirt-eating made this empire, sea rat," Joom growled. The slur cut deeper than it should. Shahob was the desert capital, home of the so-called dirt eaters. His people came from the sand and wind-swept vastness. Heya should have been groveling. Instead, he smirked. Yes. Heya dismissed the returned insult. "Clan Achawan has kebabs, potatoes, ale. They have dancing. We are invited. Leading with food and women, always a safe bet." "Clan Achawan are crafters," Joom spat. "They're rich. Their ale is good, their girls are pretty, and they're marrying into Kudald," Heya said, dropping the name like a prize. Joom arched an eyebrow. Kudald, a shipping guild that ran the trade routes from Shahab south to Zaran, the kingdom of Tavaxan's jewel on the sea, and they never let Durham forget it. They came upon a large crowd spilling from a small, ruddy-looking mercenary encampment. People cheered, blocking the path, stumbling. Cheap ale filled Joom's nostrils. "You know what this is," Joom gestured dismissively. "Tassos," Haya sighed, pointing to the guild banner. "They made up some test of strength game. Idiots have been wasting time at it all day. The register doesn't even recognize it. And some girl is champion." It took no more motivation. Joom Kirk pushed to the front of the crowd like a stampeding elephant. As he moved, he unfastened the heavy plates of his armor, not because he needed to. He didn't expect much of a fight, but because the sweat-soaked stink was unbearable. One buckle after another dropped to the ground with a clink, until he stood stripped to his undertunic and braces. Through the dust, Joom saw a willowy girl sparring a man he'd seen earlier. The man's nose gushed blood, and as the fighter regained his composure, she darted between his legs. The opponent let go of the staff to maintain his balance and to protect his jewels. The crowd cheered and booed. The match was lost.
"I'll challenge the champion!"
Joom called. One kick to the chest would end this nonsense. Another competition where someone with no business fighting was gaining momentum in the eyes of the right and rich. The girl spun on her heel and looked up at Joom. Her dark eyes sparkled with delight. Her hands and the staff went behind her back. There was no fear in this one, Joom noted. A year of true battle would change that. He had seen it before. "Kaede?" the girl asked, gesturing to a short, dark man with her chin.
"There is a price to fight, sir,"
Kaede said, stepping in. Joom rolled his eyes. "Of course there is," muttering. He didn't smell the scam until he stepped in it, like dog shit.
"Of course there is!"
Kaede, guildmaster and master of ceremonies, repeated, tossing his hands in the air. The crowd cheered as if trained. They had been through this before. "That's my beer money, Kaede, you thief!" a voice shouted, to general laughter, as the guildmaster made an elaborate bow. It seemed the Tassos Guild was selling beer and mead to accompany the entertainment. "How much?" Joom asked.
"2 silver,"
Kaede answered, enthusiastically gesturing with one hand held high. The crowd drunkenly cheered. Haya handed the coin over and clapped Joom on the shoulder. To back out now would be a bad mark. The crowd would note it. Rumors would spread.
"The rules!"
Kaede began, and staggered only a bit. Kaede was perhaps more than 3 dunks into his cups. Regardless, he stated the rules with the practiced ease of a man who'd been saying them all day, quickly and without repetition. "Both opponents start with both hands on the staff. Hand positions can be adjusted, but if a hand leaves the staff, it cannot be placed back on. The goal: remove both of your opponent's hands from the staff. Begin." Joom started the way most men did. He jerked the staff toward himself. The girl stumbled a bit, bouncing off the staff with a giggle. Pretty, Joom thought. He pushed her away, and she bounced backward, giggling again. He imagined her face smeared with blood, her jaw broken, her life extinguished. He kicked hard, but she was out of range. Her smile was enraging. It was innocent and cocky and foolish. She winked at him. Actually winked. Joom wanted to plant her face first into the dirt just to wipe it off. He twisted the staff and the girl twisted with it, ducking her head under her arm. At the end of his spin, while his arms were crossed, her arms were straight. Her back was to him. Infuriating. It was like punching water. Before he could untwist, she jumped, kicking both feet into his stomach. He bent forward from the blow. Joom hadn't been hit that hard in the stomach without armor in years. The girl spun about the pole without ever letting go, performing maneuvers that could dislocate a shoulder. She kicked him in the nose. It exploded into blood. While Joom's vision was still a bright white light, he felt her heel smash into his hand, then his wrist. He let go, rage taking over. He wanted to grab her by the throat and squeeze. When he let go, she dropped to the ground, ducking between his legs. Joom felt the blood rise to his cheeks. He had seen this part. He took an exaggerated step back, grabbed the bottom of the staff, and swung it in a high arc. The girl followed the staff into the air. Her grip failed. She was sent flying. She bounced twice, rolled, and her skirt slid up, revealing dirty legs up to her dust-covered small clothes. She rolled again, exposing a scratched and red bottom. Joom smiled, resting the staff on his shoulder. The crowd ooh-ahed. Some for the throw, some for the tumble, and more than one for the flash of legs and small clothes. Drei felt the cool night air on her thighs. Her blood roared. Rage, embarrassment, panic. "Get up, stupid! Your skirt's over your head!" Somewhere a man whistled low and called, "Best move of the match, miss!" Then a drunk voice from the back chimed in, "Marry me!" With the burst of energy only a teenage girl with her underwear showing could summon, she sprang to her feet. One hand yanked her skirt down. The other stabbed the air toward Joom. He laughed. "You cheated!" The crowd roared. Some agreed, some disagreed, and many just laughed. Joom laughed too, but it was a dark sound. He turned to Kaede. "You'll lead her to her grave if this is all she's learning," he said, tossing the staff to Kaede before vanishing into the crowd. Swaggering sand-stained bastard. Drei cursed his disappearing back as Kaede set up another fight. She discovered part of her skirt was still a great deal higher than it should be. Drei rubbed her bruised bottom, pouting, until, of course, she saw Roma Tsai bouncing up to her. It was a skip, but every part of her seemed to be in a sort of giddy, joyous motion. And as soon as Drei's eyes took her in, Roma's embrace overtook her. "That was amazing!" Roma shouted in Drei's ear.
"Hardly. I just showed everyone my small clothes."
Roma released her and giggled. "Well, that wasn't my favorite part."
"Oh, you had a favorite part?"
Roma bounced into a bow stance, 1 foot far in front of the other. She pointed at an invisible Joom, tossing her head back dramatically. "You cheated!"
And everyone laughed.
Drei sighed, resting her head on Roma's shoulder. "They were just glad you were okay," Roma cooed, rubbing Drei's back and kissing the deep red crown of her filthy hair. "Let's have a drink." "It was good, Drei. You almost had him," Sen offered.
"You think so, Sen? My butt doesn't."
Drei laughed and mussed his blonde hair, then pulled him close to her.
"You want a drink?"
"Yes, but—" Sen pushed Drei away, looking at her seriously. "I have a tournament tomorrow." "You do? You will make the whole guild proud, riding and—" "What?" Roma asked. "Single combat, double gauche." He lifted his chin proudly. "That's my style," Drei smiled. "Sinister hand," Roma whispered ominously. "Deadliest of all hands, not to be confused with clumsy hand or sticky hand." Sen glared. "Shut up." Roma stuck out her tongue, but Sen continued. "They're good, medium-sized daggers that let you get in close. Built to deflect anything. Speed and precision over brute strength. Double left, the sinister hand. It suits me." Sen sounded like he was quoting Kaede in a training session. Roma grinned. Drei nodded. "You are going to get bigger, though. One day you will be a big squirrel. What is the name for that, Roma?" Roma shrugged and smiled. "I will," Sen nodded. "But I hope not. Fastest riders are light. They don't burden the horse." "True, but it doesn't matter how fast you are if when you get there you're too small to attack," Drei commented, patting Sen's head. Sen laughed. "Have you ever seen me ride, Drei? Besides, it's mostly archery." Kaede waved off the trio, confirming that she was done for the night. "So, where to? Rolling Thunder?" Roma asked excitedly. The Rolling Thunder clan were musicians, dancers, and entertainers. Naturally, their encampment was straight debauchery at night, Roma's favorite place because of the drums and dancing. The drums were the source of their name. "I have to make an appearance at Clan Akawan," Drei sighed unhappily, remembering. "For your mum?" Roma asked, knowing the answer. By hill and stone, she's the worst, Roma cursed. She is, Senjab agreed solemnly. Bet you wish you were an orphan like me and Roma, free to do whatever we like. You mean whatever Kaide likes, Roma corrected. Same thing, Sen jeered. Come on though, Drei. Why are you even still a part of your clan? It's ridiculous, Roma said, pulling on Drei's arm as if trying to tug her away from it. It's just not that simple when you have parents, Drei laughed. Her mom was a handful, sure, but she loved her family. Let me change, wash up. We all go for dinner at Clan Akawan. Then we put little Senjab to bed. She ruffled his hair and he pulled away angrily. Then we go dancing at Rolling Thunder. The three ducked into the recruit tent, and the girls changed for dancing and dinner. Sen sat with his back to them, whittling a stick. The stick was already half destroyed, but judging by the scowl on his face, it deserved it.
Chapter 2. Dance and the Dagger. After washing and changing, Drei tried to look composed. She lived in two worlds, at war with each other at every step. In one world, the one she chose, these marks were badges of honour. In the world her mother chose for her, they were marks of disgrace. She rebraided her hair and dabbed powder over the worst of it. Her eye was already swelling. A scratch on her chin would darken by nightfall. The three headed to Clan Akawan's pavilion. Clan Akawan wasn't really a clan, not anymore. They were more like a guild now, with their lace, buttons, carvings and jewellery. She had heard the elders about clever marriages and cleverer apprenticeships. It worked. They were growing. The event was sombre with quiet music and subdued dancing. The table groaned with kebabs, greens and sugared things Drei didn't have the appetite for. Fatia was already here somewhere. People mingled, ate and danced. Joom noticed her the second she entered. He was surprised, not expecting her. Hoya, he whispered, gesturing at the girl. Oh, by the house colours, your dangerous little street cat is the eldest daughter of House Sano. Hoya grinned. Her mother must be delighted. Grateful the food was already served, Drei, Roma and Sen rushed the table, piling their plates high. A steward eyed the trio and was about to question them, until he noticed Drei was dressed in Sano house colours of grey, silver and black. Roma had a bow of that colour holding back her curls, and Sen had one wrapped around his upper arm.
I don't see your mum, Roma whispered, leaning across Sen toward Drei.
Maybe we missed her, Senjab answered casually, pushing his way between them toward the food, his real focus. Just eat so we can get out of here. Drei hushed them. Drei, her mother sighed from behind her. Drei flinched in surprise. The soft lilac perfume touched her nose. She stood to face her. The chair scraped across the floor, tipping. Roma caught it and set it upright, wishing she could disappear. Next to her, Sen moved to stand. Roma gripped his wrist and mouthed the word, no. Drei was in a world where neither of them could protect her. Mother. Drei smiled, even as blood rushed to her cheeks. She curtsied low, as was custom. Drei and her mother weren't what some would consider close. Drei spent more time with seamstresses and nursemaids. Look at you. Fatia Sano lifted a strand of Drei's hair and let it fall again. Fighting? You have opportunity your friends can't dream of, you silly girl. I'm sorry. Drei kept her eyes downcast. Mercenary law is the rule of the land, Mother. Father sees that my efforts bring honour to the family. Honour? Is that what it looks like? Fatia touched Drei's bruises sadly. I just hate how you're wasting your talents. Look at you, beaten half to death. And all of this happened today, didn't it? By the old gods, look at your hands. She sighed in resignation. You know your father is very sick. And if you were smart... The threat was only faintly veiled. Contracts her father had signed could be renegotiated by Fatia, and Fatia would wield Drei's future like a tool. Stop it, Mother, Drei whispered. I've met you halfway. I work for the house. I'm here doing your bidding out of loyalty to my father. This is not where my future lies." She glanced up at her mother's face, her mind questioning how close that day had come. Was her father worse? Fatia smiled softly and continued. "You could stop this and focus on keeping your family guild happy. You have talents. You could do well at home. We're not." Drei was confused. "We aren't one yet," Fatia said, stepping closer and lowering her voice. "If Akawan can do it, so can we. But you need to stop this. Come home, work full-time, and perhaps marry someone useful. Even unwed, Drei, you have talents. You could elevate us both." Fatia was holding her hands, desperate in her argument. Drei met her mother's eyes. The hurt, disappointment, and concern were like a knife in her heart. The thought of marrying and spending the rest of her life sewing was worse. Fatia's chin tilted subtly toward one of the older Akawan boys, lean, awkward, and very available. "Mum, Drei shook her head, but offered no more resistance. "Go mingle," Fatia encouraged, then commanded. "Try, please. You might be surprised." "Mother," Drei shook her head. This isn't who I am. Please, I have worked hard to arrange a meeting. Ty Evan." She pointed discreetly. "Talk to him, please." Drei sighed, smiling dully. It was impossible to say no to her mother for long. As she walked away, she watched her mother pull the clan colours out of Roma's hair and off Sen's arm, pointing them to the camp's exit from the corner of her eye. Sen scooped the food from his plate into his hands, glaring at Fatia as he rushed out. Roma did the same, mashed potatoes dripping between her fingers. Roma giggled as she ran. "Best dinner party?" Sen answered over his shoulder. "Oh no! We get to eat and we don't have to look interested." Roma snorted as they ran. The steward made a weak attempt at chasing them to the exit, not really wanting to stop them, but not wanting to seem indifferent either. Because she was watching her friends and not where she was going, she nearly ran into Joom. He caught her by the shoulder before she collided with him. "Careful! Careful!" He smiled down at her, almost warm. Drei spat out a flustered apology before taking a double take. "Oh, we had a contest earlier. An unfair one." Joom scanned the room, then met her eyes. Her eyes stayed on him, the real threat in the room. "You cheated anyway, as I recall." His smile was a slow shrug, like a predator pretending not to notice prey. "Neither of us belong here, do we?" He glanced around again. "You with your bruises, me with—" He paused, failing to find a word. He grimaced. "Well, me." Drei couldn't help but like him a little bit. This was the kind of man she chose to spend time with. Not refined, not well-spoken. Still, the violence of their last encounter echoed itself in the wound at her hip. "We don't belong here," she agreed, smiling. "And yet, we are here. What are your hopes for this party? Not out to catch a husband, are you?" "What?" Joom glared down at her. She nearly dropped her glass at the sudden change in his mood. He paused, then smiled slowly, catching the joke. "That's your job, then?" Drei nodded, about to leave. "You don't belong in either world, do you, Drei?" He smiled, gripping her arm lightly. Drei tilted her head, not sure if he was kidding. Frightened, but intrigued. A man in combat wasn't the same man over cups. Circumstances had set them against each other earlier today, and she knew better than to take tournament behavior personally. "I have responsibilities in both, it seems," she smiled lightly. Joom was well known. She placed him now. Joom, the guild champion, with a reputation for violence and victories. He couldn't let her get the upper hand. His career wouldn't stand it. Drei rolled her glass in her hand, considering him too long. His eyes stayed on her. Predatory. It prickled her skin. She fought a shiver with a deep breath. Your mother doesn't approve of your activities? Joom gestured toward Fatia. The thumb of his other hand caressed her forearm. Sire, you seem to know a great deal of me. I know only of your reputation. My friend Hoya is in the business of knowing things. Don't be alarmed. As for my reputation, it's not as bad as they claim, I assure you.
Drei laughed despite herself. Everything in her instincts told her he was exactly as bad as they claimed. His hold on her arm was too strong to escape politely, but subtle. He was revealing himself, cunning, well-spoken, and dangerous. Joom continued, You don't have to continue down the path you have set for yourself. You could help your mother, perhaps wed into a mercenary guild. He glanced down to her from the corner of his eye, still watching where Fatia mingled. You offer yourself then? Drei asked, imagining this all a joke. I do. Joom focused his attention on her. Drei looked up, her mouth agape, stunned. Why? Joom laughed, thunderous, drawing eyes. Why? You're beautiful, young and no doubt fertile. Drei blinked at him, quietly stunned. And my mother told me romance didn't benefit growing houses. Joom frowned slightly. She's right, he thought for a moment. True romance grows over years of dedication. Marriage is a contract toward mutual benefit. Your clan is on the rise, and you have a spirit that I respect. I don't require anything more. I doubt you could meet my dowry, sir. Besides, I am contracted with Tassos, as you know. Drei took an instinctive step back. Joom released her arm with a smile. He closed on her. You would be surprised what I can do, Drei. Drei froze. He was so close she had to tilt her head back. He smelled of cedar and leather. He didn't touch her, but her body screamed danger. A hand went to his chest as she backed a step, looking up at him. She trembled, seeing her disarmed on the run like a rabbit. Joom felt his pulse in his ears. He was driven to take another step forward, hoping to see her back up again, to retreat, to tremble again. He stepped, smiling. Drei retreated. His fingers brushed her elbow. I will be at Rolling Thunder later. I hope to see you in a less formal setting. Perhaps we can dance again, Joom whispered. He turned away, entering a conversation with a group of men. He joined a tall, thin man Drei had seen earlier that day. She could only guess it was Hoya. Drei turned and moved fast, setting her cup down and heading for the nearest door. He had called it a dance? The retreat, the threat of his body, the contrast of his smile. She needed air and space. The tall Akawan boy moved to intercept her as she left. She pushed past him and broke into a run once she passed through the door and entered the darkness outside. Her legs shook and her stomach rolled. Safe from prying eyes, and a world more dangerous than daggers.
Chapter 3. The Mercenary's Bride. Hoya slinked up to Joom. I think you frightened her, friend. Joom shot him a side-eye and a frown. Maybe. He smiled, remembering her frightened retreat. I did well enough. I like her, he grimaced. Hoya raised an eyebrow. Ah, nothing says romance like chasing a girl into the shadows and making her bolt like a spooked rabbit. Joom smiled, unbothered by Hoya's comment. Women like a little fear. It blooms into respect, and then, when she sees what I can do for her, love. Hoya considered. He knew better than to argue. Having some kind of affection is important in these matters. Joom grunted, rubbing his chin and thinking aloud. I'll rarely be in the capital. She doesn't have to like me. But tying ourselves to her guild? That boosts guild syphis. It's honor, it's income, he shrugged. She could give me some fat heirs, maybe even continue to work in her family guild. Hoya tisked and rolled his eyes in a way that irritated Jume. There's a problem, of course. Well, two. He counted on his fingers. She is contracted to Tassos. We could buy her out. Second, she has a considerable dowry. She's an expensive bride. Jume shot Hoya a burning glance. The girl has no place in a mercenary guild. She's a little rabbit with dreams of glory. She'll end up dead in some stinking puddle, I know that. And so does her mother. He gestured at Fatia across the room. So, you expect Fatia Sano to simply gift you the girl, to save her from herself? Hoya glanced from Jume to Fatia and back, then examined his nails. Optimistic, but not impossible. I have a plan.
Outside the pavilion, Drei paused by a fountain. Her fists were clenched by her sides, and she forced her breath to steady. A breeze ruffled her hair and cooled her cheeks. Jume had frightened her, and she wasn't used to being frightened. Excuse me, Drei? A man's voice asked from behind. Drei turned, surprised to see the slender Clan Akawan boy. He approached cautiously, a gentle smile on his lips. If I'm not seen talking to you, my mother will tear my hide, he said by way of apology. Drei relaxed. Mine too, she agreed, then paused. I mean, mine would tear my hide. He smiled, ignoring her missteps. I'm Tyven. He extended a hand, palm up. Drei placed hers in his, and he bowed, pressing his forehead to the back of her hand. Not a kiss, just respect. After Jume's performance, the difference mattered. I'm honoured, Tyven. Drei completed the small ceremony and glanced toward the exit. A member of Guild Sano watched, ensuring etiquette was followed. It seems promises have been made, Drei whispered. Tyven straightened and met her eyes. He nodded solemnly. You know, she said, unsure how to continue, I'm contracted to Tassos. Your mother believes you'll forfeit it, he whispered, apologetic. Drei shook her head. Ridiculous! Tyven, could you love a woman in a mercenary guild? No, he said softly, sadly, but only because I love another. Then we are aligned in our need to see this fail, she said quietly. We are, but I won't dishonour you with a baseless rejection. Please, don't do the same to me. His hand almost touched her shoulder, but instead brushed a lock of hair from her face before returning to his side. Drei laughed softly. Honour in this world only moves me further from what I want.
She rocked back slightly, teetering as if she might fall into the fountain. Tyven caught her before she went in, his body against hers. He whispered in her ear, Honour, in any world, is valuable, Drei. Don't be in a rush to discard what may save you later. He set her upright and dropped to one knee. He proclaimed, Forgive me, Drei. I couldn't let you fall. Drei fought the urge to laugh. She hadn't been this close to truly falling in years. Still, it made for good theatre. Drei extended a hand to his head, continuing the performance. Rise, sir. Your actions saved me. Please accept my gratitude. Tyven stood, eyes on hers as he rose. Give me time, Drei. I will help us both. Drei could only nod. Thank you. This is enough time together, I think, for a first encounter. He extended his hand again. Drei dropped hers into it, and again he pressed his forehead to the back of her hand. He straightened and turned. Until next time, Drei Sano. Tyven added real affection to her name that made Drei smile despite herself.
Serid watched the two young people below, observing body language, ensuring proper behavior. His focus was on Drei. He noted the artificial loss of balance, the catch on Tyven's part, the extended embrace. He smiled broadly. Little minx. He could hardly believe she was doing so well. Her mother will be overjoyed. Serit spun on his heel and rushed to Fatia to report Drei's obvious success. Hoya watched Fatia Sano walk to the edge of the party and quickly listened to a whispered report from a Sano attendant. The information seemed to please the woman, as she lingered at the edge of the party, smiling to herself. Hoya approached.
Fatia Sano, he greeted with a slight bow. I am Hoya, second of the Sifis Mercenary Guild. Your daughter has recently come to our attention.
Fatia frowned, turning partly away.
No, I have no interest in letting that girl continue as a soldier.
The word rotted in her mouth.
No, my lady, you misunderstand. My guildmaster, the esteemed Joom Kirk, wishes to wed her.
The woman turned back toward him, eyebrow raised. He continued.
Lady Sano, you won't find a man more tested by steel and fire than Joom Kirk. He's not only undefeated in the ring, but commands loyalty like a banner in the wind. Your daughter would have strength, legacy, and no shortage of gold at her side. Point him out,
Fatia asked, intrigued. Hoya frowned slightly, then gestured in the direction of Joom.
There is the ugly lump. That's not a lump. That's an entire avalanche.
Fatia laughed.
He's too old, a beast in party clothes. I would never give my daughter to someone like him. I have far better options.
Hoya nodded. He was ready for this.
Lady, your daughter herself is unrefined. Did I not see her earlier, face bruised like a two-coin harbor whore?
Fatia shot Hoya a look, aghast. Her hand went to her heart. Before she could speak, Hoya continued.
We both know that stubborn girl will never forfeit her contract with Tesos. Her future is death in a stinking village miles away.
Fatia backed up, shocked, nearly ready to scream.
Unless you help me, madam,
Hoya pleaded, sincere and kind.
I can help dissolve her mercenary contract. Quietly, Joom can make her happy, or at the very least safe. Joom would appear only twice a year, perhaps, enough to honor the union and ensure a legacy. The rest of the time, your daughter remains here, safe, under your eye.
Fatia stepped away, staggered from Hoya's argument. She remembered Drei's face, her hands, and began to seriously consider his words. It was true. Drei would have to willingly forfeit. Fatia remembered the news she had just heard, her daughter pretending to fall into the fountain to seduce Tyvan.
She will forfeit. Get out of my sight,
she spat, stepping forward and past Hoya. Hoya bowed to her retreating form, then turned, shoulders slumped, mind already drafting his apology. The air at the festival shifted. The last notes of courtly music faded into laughter, shouting, and the drumbeats of drinking games. Far from the polished fountain and its scandals, another fire crackled, this one surrounded not by nobles, but mercenaries. Where Fatia left fury and silk in her wake, Roma walked barefoot through the grass, licking mashed potatoes off her fingers. Are you coming with me to Rolling Thunder? Always a good place for dancing and fun after a long festival day. I gotta put Kaede to bed, Senjab sighed regretfully. He won't let me go out tonight. I compete tomorrow. Do you need help? Roma hated to leave Senjab with the inglorious task of pulling the drunken guildmaster out of the spotlight. Sen didn't answer, and the two walked together back to their camp. Kaede had started pitting willing and often drunken fighters against each other in the staff game. It was a good time to start bets. The crowd was loosened up and eager to participate. He was weaving back and forth while settling an argument between two fully drunk competitors, one of whom was a sore loser. Sen and Roma walked directly toward him, until Kaede flashed the guild sign language for pause mission until signal. Sen and Roma casually changed directions and sat by the fire. "Oh, little Senjab, you're on fire," Roma teased, settling in the grass beside him. A mix of anger and devotion had been rolling off him since they'd escaped the feast. "Get out of my head, Roma," Sen growled. "Get your thoughts out of my mind," Roma countered, giving him a push. "You can see my thoughts." "Goddess, no. Just feel. I don't have to see it. For instance, now I feel you're embarrassed. You're still a squirrel," she murmured, brushing hair from his eyes. "Always chewing on something, always hiding a piece of yourself." "You just don't like how big the squirrel's gotten," he muttered, jaw tight. She smiled, soft and sad. "No, I don't like watching you get sharp like this." Senjab looked at the dirt, trying to pry up a rock with his fingers.
"Your secret is safe with me, squirrel."
Roma pulled him close and kissed his temple. Senjab was only 2 or 3 years younger than she and Drei, but those were the years that separated boys from women, and he was no exception. "She's good," he said. Roma laughed. "She's the best." "She's not the best, Roma. She's just the best of us. Maybe she should listen to her mother." Senjab picked at the ground, tossing a small rock at the fire. "Stop that talk. If she heard you," Roma warned, she could stay with her clan. She could, I don't know, something safer, something better than this," Senjab stammered, not sure what that better life would include, only that it had to be better than what he and Roma had. "Yes, you're right. She would be safer at home," Roma said, continuing as Sen looked up in surprise. "She'll just dedicate her whole life to doing something she's really good at, but hates. That'll make her mum happy, who is just a joy to be around. But you know, she gets to sleep in a bed every night, probably next to some fat merchant's son, or even worse, some inbred lesser royal." Roma tossed a stick into the fire. How long would that life take to burn her friend down? Senjab gave her a side-eye and flung a fistful of dirt into the flames. Roma had been with the guild a few years, but Sen had grown up in Tesos, maybe even been born to it. His earliest memories were of Kaide's voice teaching him words, of scrubbing blood from Kaide's armor, of walking miles from the northern coast to the southern marches, sometimes on foot, sometimes riding Kaide's shoulders. He trained harder than anyone. Mornings before the sun, nights after the fires died. Drei was their star, sure, but Sen carried the secret Kaide had forced him to keep. She wasn't the best. He was. "Yeah, I guess," Sen relented, quieter now.
Roma felt the air shift and shivered. The mood was changing. It did that sometimes, one foul mood feeding another, and with too much drink a crowd could suddenly turn. "I need to talk to Kaide," she said, rolling to her feet. Senjab followed. Kaide was stumbling back from 2 contestants who had dropped the staff and were now simply punching each other. The crowd hollered. Kaide waved in a bet collector and shouted, "Double forfeit, house wins!" The crowd roared in anger. Coins were flicked at Kaide and the collector. Other gamblers stomped off in disgust. One man near the front hissed and drew back his coat just enough for firelight to flash on steel. Kaide bent to pick up coins but fell forward onto his face, then rolled to his side, laughing drunkenly. Roma knelt beside him. She could feel the crowd shift again, anger softening into amusement, then pity. "Kaide," she pulled at him. "This is the last time." Roma shouted at him, hoping to disrupt the mood of the crowd. "You spent all the guild's earnings on mead, you daft bastard!" She kicked him, trying to make it look harder than it was. Kaide cried out, groaning and laughing stupidly. Sen reached a hand down. Kaide took it, pulled hard, and they both stumbled before Sen caught his balance. Roma scooped Kaide's arm over her shoulder. "Show's over, folks. Go to your own camps, Sen called, leading Kaede away. Kaede mumbled and swayed the whole walk. At one point he paused as if to vomit, but it was a false alarm. Roma scanned the crowd. Disgust, superiority, pity. Even the angry ones wouldn't touch Kaede now. It would be beneath them. By the time they reached the tent, the crowd had thinned. Mostly Tarsos members remained. A few gamblers lingered at the edges, swapping jokes and coin. The guild looked ragged in the firelight, its members split between the tragically old and the pitifully young. 2 boys, barely out of swaddling cloths, slept on bundled rags at the feet of a grizzled veteran. He spoke softly to a 10-year-old, demonstrating how to sharpen a dagger, his voice steady as a whetstone. Senjab pushed Kaede through the tent flaps. Roma followed, her hand resting on his back. Inside the tent, Kaede straightened. He rolled his shoulders, stretched, and the act of drunkenness slid off him like a discarded cloak. Roma flinched and pulled her hand back. She had never touched him in the moment the mask dropped. It felt too real, too intimate, and it chilled her. "I don't understand why you insist on doing this," gruffly Sen said. "They think I'm too drunk to be dangerous. It makes people feel better about losing, either to a clown or a king. We can't afford to be kings. So we're clowns." Sen. "Clowns live longer, and no one expects them to pay taxes." Kaede grinned, then shrugged, continuing. "Today, this year, let them bet against us. Let them underestimate us. It protects us. And it pays. Then why let Drei win all day?" Roma. "Why?" Kaede looked at Senjab. Sen frowned. "If she wins, they'll think we're good, despite the guild. They'll assume we've got a few exceptions, not a system that works. So you didn't let me take her place, even though I could." Kaede nodded. "Good lad. You're next year." "But jobs?" Roma. "Who hires the joke?" "Let me worry about that girl." Dex. Kaede never used the nickname. "Tomorrow's a big day. Check your gear and get some rest." With that, Kaede waved them off. "Good night," Sen and Roma said in unison as they hugged. Roma looked around. Now that only guild members remained, it was obvious. Tarsos was more orphanage than guild. 200 adult soldiers, 100 children, 3 infants. According to imperial law, any guild, noble house, or city-state could declare war on another. A small, scheduled battle decided the outcome. Land, ransom, or leverage. Tarsos wasn't just a guild. It was a sanctuary built on lies, blood, and coin. And Kaede was the one keeping it breathing.
Chapter 5.
Roma could feel the charge in the air, all the young people performing their various mating rituals. She was getting drunk, and it was getting harder to block out the desires of others. She sipped her drink. Someone was talking to her, but she couldn't focus on the words. Swaying slightly, she closed her eyes, imagining a wall of light surrounding her, pushing out all the noise. Just practicing the meditation brought to mind the smell of Kaede's leather and tobacco. Her mind calmed slightly. She looked up at the talking head. It belonged to a tall young man with dark hair. She didn't know him, and she was sure he wasn't the last person who had bought her or Drei a cup that night. Roma looked into her glass. How many had she had exactly? She squinted at it like it held the answer. It did not. "Look at me." The voice shot through her mind, louder than words could have been. For a moment she thought it came from her cup, then realised it was the man in front of her. The light shield shattered, and the minds around her rolled back into her head. She looked up at the young man. "What did you say?" "I said, you look beautiful tonight. Have you been with Tassos for long?" "Oh, Roma paused. In her mind she saw a flash of her own breasts being groped by his hands. She shook herself. These were not her thoughts. "What do you do at the Tassos Guild?" the young man asked. "I'm a mystic." Roma answered quietly, pushing the invading thoughts out of her mind. She blinked, trying to bring the light back. Calm, light, a safe white light. Not a herbalist? He asked, stepping closer for some reason. Drei laughed from behind her. Roma stepped back and brushed against the man talking to Drei. She slipped into his mind and saw Drei's laughing mouth, her red lips, her wicked eyes, and the smooth curve of her shoulder. Roma was overwhelmed with desire for her, his desire. She saw his hand curl around Drei's throat, laughing at her terror. Roma gasped, dropping her drink.
Oh, excuse me.
The man talking to Drei turned and stepped away from Roma. Get away from me, she pushed him.
What?
The man stepped back, anger and confusion on his face. Drei's fingers brushed Roma's wrist. Roma, it's okay. This is Doom. That guy, Drei laughed. That guy that threw me. Get off her. Don't touch her again. Roma pushed again. Roma? Drei grabbed hold of her friend, wrapping her arms tightly around her. I'm spinning. Drei, they are all getting inside of me. You are in danger. Roma grabbed Drei's head and pressed her forehead to her friend's. Darkness and stillness. A raft floating in an endless ocean. Bobbing. There on the raft, just the two girls, holding on to each other, stars above, black below. This was older than Kaide's teaching, something that only existed with Drei. No matter how bad it was, Drei could take her to that quiet place. She's just drunk, Drei. I can send for an escort. Get her to her tent. Doom's hand slid up from Drei's shoulder, over the side of her neck and into her hair. He pulled gently and whispered into her ear, Don't leave just yet. Drei shivered. The raft rocked in a wave. In Roma's mind, bright blue light raced under the water, schools of fish that glowed like blue lightning. Drei disappeared from the raft. Drei, please, it's not safe here, Roma begged quietly. I'm sorry. Drei pulled Roma close. I can't block them out, Roma whispered. I'm going to burn. Drei didn't ask questions. She just moved fast, gripping Roma's arm and ducking through the crowd like they were escaping a fire. Doom watched, his expression unreadable as he melted back into the crowd. Roma gasped. Her eyes opened. They were alone, and outside of the camp, away from the fire. I walked us out, Drei explained, apologetically. I drank too much, Roma said. Me too, Drei nodded. Can we go further away? Even away from the fire, they were surrounded by tents, filled with dreams, passionate embraces, and whispered fights. A dull roar threatened to overrun her. Drei considered. We could go to the pond for a bath. The water will do you good. Roma nodded. A single fat tear rolled down her cheek. The girls walked down a lane, leaning against each other, stumbling occasionally and giggling. Roma felt better. She couldn't block out Drei, but she didn't need to. Drei's mind was a calm oasis. There were clouds far off and a quiet sense of danger, but Drei kept it back. Roma knew if she dug deep there were monsters, but the surface was pristine, the water calm, and no threat came from the black depths. I think I'm okay now, Roma mumbled, but the edge in her voice betrayed her. The road ahead was quiet, but the hairs on her arms lifted. The sun follows us, Drei. It's only a guard, Roma. Drei saw the shift. Roma had gone deep, the exact kind of thing Kaede didn't want people seeing. Her oracle abilities. Where are you girls heading? He asked, a pleasant expression on his face. To the pond for a bath, Drei answered. Roma's eyes were glazed. I'm going to touch it, Drei. Pull me from the fire if I go in, Roma announced in a sing-song way. Roma let go of Drei, stepping toward the guard. Her hand extended, her other arm blocking her eyes. The guard stood completely still, as if Roma had suddenly manifested herself into a wasp and was about to land on him. Roma's hand found his breastplate. She unshielded her eyes and looked into his face. Another hand clasped his cheek. Not the sun. Only so much goodness in one place. Your halberd. One side holds life, and the other death. Do you get to choose? Roma smiled, pulling him close. I know you. I've known you. Finally, in his ear, I'll know you again. Drei grabbed Roma by the waist and pulled her away from the guard. She is very drunk, the guard. Mystic? Yes, Drei answered, stumbling with Roma. My brother is the same when he gets drunk. That, he pointed at Roma, that was a first. But my brother is the same. He says odd things and can't control them. Some come true, some just... He shrugged. Drei nodded. All right. The pond is closed for bathing at night, but I'll stand guard. She could use a dunk. Thank you. Who are you besides a very kind guard? Oh, Edic. Edic is fine. Edic knew Drei. He had seen her fight earlier that day. But the other one, he would remember a woman like that. The vision seemed to have left her now, and they both stumbled happily and quite drunkenly down the lane. Lovely girls. They reminded him a bit of himself and his brother, always in trouble. Upon reaching the pond, the girls stripped down and dove in. Edic looked down the lane to protect their modesty, as if they had any. He smiled to himself. I'm protecting wild things, not ladies of the kingdom. Splashing and laughing confirmed his thoughts, and he leaned against a tree with a chuckle. Sweet girls. He was glad to be their shield. He worried about his brother, who had been taken not 2 years ago into the Order of the Emperor's Mystic Herbalists. A strange group. His brother was hardly given a choice. Stop practicing or join. A choice like that would be the same as saying, stop being a man or join. He didn't choose to practice. It was what he was. So his brother disappeared. The same fate was not in store for this dark beauty. Women were not permitted to be herbalists, but the gift, as his family called it, could be a curse. The pond grew silent, and Edic turned to check if all was well, not wanting to invade upon them, but wary of their condition. Roma tread water in the moonlight, feeling her bosom finally bob freely, pleasantly, as her hair slicked back and cool water kissed her skin. Perhaps something was wrong. Edic pushed himself away from the tree, watching. Drei popped up from under the water just in front of Roma, who screamed. Edic smiled, relaxing again. He was about to turn when Drei pulled Roma's head to hers, and they kissed, quick and gentle. They whispered to each other, foreheads pressed together, treading water and spinning in a slow circle. Not so much like my brother and me then, Edic thought. He smiled faintly, but a knot of unease tugged at him. He was protecting wild things, not ladies of the kingdom, and wild things always drew hunters. He felt the cold steel that had been slipped under his breastplate from the side. The flat of the blade was against him. Lovely, yes, but reckless, the man's voice whispered from Edic's right. Idiot, Edic whispered back. Edic pivoted fast. The knife blade was trapped between his stomach and armour. The dagger cut a bit into him, but the handle snapped from his attacker's hand. Edic caught him with a backhand, and the attacker fell, sprawled. Another attacker darted forward, but Edic went low, sweeping the man's legs out from beneath him with his Quan Dao, dull side out. If they had any training, they had drowned it in the same drink that took their common sense. Rising from a low stance, Edic caught the last in the chin, sending him to his back with a shout. Edic gathered the daggers. What guild? He asked. Cyphis, sir, the three responded. Edic narrowed his eyes. 5th rank. Attacking girls at a pond. The first boy looked down. We're just testing the guard. Make sure you're properly trained, that's all. Properly trained? Who are you to test me? Edic scoffed. Just a bit of fun. Our guildmaster wanted to check, the first boy continued. Shut up, the second elbowed him hard. Edic's stomach turned cold. That wasn't a brawl. That was a set-up. Go tell your guildmaster that the guard is just fine. The attackers left him with 3 daggers and 3 Cyphers 5th rank sashes in his hands. 5th rank. Idiots. He could have beaten 6 of them sober, but then he would have had to hurt one of them seriously. Of course, that wasn't common knowledge. Edict scanned the trees. From the edge of the pond came the sound of hurried footsteps and rustling fabric. Drei's voice rose ahead of her.
I heard a scream. Are you okay?
You're bleeding, Roma declared. It's a scratch, Edict smiled. What is your guild, ladies? Tassos, Drei answered. Let's get you two safely home then. Edict could barely relax the entire way. Roma was more coherent, and the girls were quiet, more sober and tired. When he reached the Tassos camp, he walked them to their tent, then went directly to the dimly lit tent that must belong to the guild master. Edict pulled the curtain softly. Sir? He asked the poorly lit darkness inside. Kaede stirred from his cot, only half asleep. Oh, enter. He sat up and looked at the young guard who came in. Sir, I brought your girls home, Roma and Drei. Edict pointed out the door. Thank you. Did they cause trouble? Not so much, sir. Though Roma... Edict paused, unsure if he could trust the guild master with the truth. She had visions. Kaede stood, reaching for a drawer. How much will this secret cost? She did, sir. It's not safe, Edict continued. No, she's not. Thank you. Kaede extended his hand to shake. Edict reached out, shaking, and was about to turn to the door. There is another matter. Guild Sifis. Do the girls have some kind of, Edict shrugged, history with them? Kaede blinked, surprised, searching his memory. June was here briefly the other night. Tossed dry, Kaede half laughed, remembering. Some words were exchanged, but nothing anyone would take seriously. Edict explained the trip to the pond and the attack, leaving out irrelevant and private moments, including Roma's vision. He concluded with, the boys weren't drunk. They were 5th rank, Sifis. And one of them said they were testing the guard. Who in the hell would test a guard protecting 2 girls? Only someone who had already decided one of those girls belonged to him. Kaede's brow furrowed. I've heard things about Jim, his obsessions and how they turn out.